In the small, isolated village of Litchfield, a sinister legend circulated for generations. It spoke of a ghost child, Samuel, who wandered the outskirts, searching for a mother to nurse him. The elders, whispering in the flicker of candlelight, swore it was more than just a tale to keep children close at night. It was a warning, especially for mothers. Samuel had been born to a young woman named Eliza, who loved her child fiercely. Their home, a humble cottage on the edge of the woods, was filled with the soft hum of lullabies and the scent of herbs drying by the hearth. But one winter night, an illness claimed Eliza's life as she lay cradling her newborn son. Samuel, too young to fend for himself, cried out for days, his pitiful wails unanswered until they stopped, along with his fragile breath. By the time the villagers discovered him, Samuel was cold and lifeless, his tiny body curled in the crib, lips still quivering from starvation. They buried mother and son side by side in the frozen ground and left the cottage to rot, hoping time would erase the tragedy. But Samuel's spirit never rested. The first to hear him was a young woman named Martha, who had just given birth to her daughter. One night, as she sat nursing her child in the candlelight, a cold breeze swept through the window, making the hairs on her neck stand up. She heard it then, a faint, heart-wrenching cry drifting from the woods. It wasn't her daughter, who slept peacefully in her arms. No, this cry was something else. She shook her head, dismissing it as the wind, but the sound grew louder, more desperate. The voice of a baby, calling out into the night. "Martha, come to bed," her husband murmured, half asleep. She swaddled her daughter and climbed into bed, but the cry haunted her, echoing in her dreams. The next night, it returned. But this time, it was closer. Martha stepped outside to check on the livestock, and the moment she opened the door, the wailing hit her, freezing her in place. She scanned the tree line, her heart pounding. That was when she saw a small figure lurking at the edge of the woods. The child stood still, barely visible in the moonlight. His skin was pale as frost, his eyes wide and black. He couldn't have been more than a year old, but something about him was wrong, unnatural. His lips moved, forming a word she couldn't hear, but she understood it in her bones. "Mommy." Martha's breath caught in her throat. She felt a strange pull, an instinct to go to the child, to comfort him. She took a step forward, but a chill seized her, and her body recoiled. She slammed the door and bolted it shut, rushing to her baby's crib. Her daughter was sound asleep, untouched. But the air in the room had turned ice cold. For the next week, the cries returned every night. They came closer and closer until it felt as if they were just outside her window. Each night, the ghost child called, "Mommy, milk." His voice, soft at first, grew louder, more insistent, as though he could smell the milk on her skin, the nourishment meant for her own baby. Soon, the other new mothers in the village began to hear it too. No one spoke of it at first, not wanting to believe that the old legend could be true. But fear spread as more mothers reported sleepless nights, haunted by the same desperate voice. It wasn't long before the village midwife, Agnes, realized something was terribly wrong. Mothers were growing pale and weak, their babies unusually fussy and thin. One woman, Evelyn, had collapsed in the middle of the square, her eyes wide with terror. She clutched her newborn tightly as she babbled incoherently about a boy in the woods, a ghost who had tried to steal her baby. The villagers finally gathered in the church, seeking answers. Agnes, wise and practical, told the story of Samuel and his mother, recounting how the boy had died from hunger. "He seeks the milk he was denied," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He will come for every mother who bears a child, and he will not stop until he is fed." That very night, Evelyn disappeared from her home, leaving only her crying infant behind. The villagers searched for days, but all they found were strange footprints leading into the woods, tiny, child-sized prints in the snow. They knew then that Samuel had taken her, claimed her for his own, seeking the nourishment that had been denied him in life. The following months were marked by a growing terror. Every time a new baby was born, the same events unfolded. The ghost of Samuel would appear, drawn to the scent of fresh milk. He would lurk at the windows, his dark eyes watching, his thin, ghastly lips muttering the same word over and over, "Mommy, milk." Mothers tried everything to ward him off. They hung herbs over their doors, prayed through the night, even smeared their thresholds with ash. But nothing worked. Samuel would always find a way. If the cries were ignored for too long, the baby's own health would begin to falter, as if Samuel were draining the life from both mother and child. One night, a mother named Clara, who had just given birth to twin boys, woke to find Samuel standing at the foot of her bed. He was no longer just a shadowy figure at the window, he was there, inside her home. His black, bottomless eyes stared at her with hunger. His small, ghostly hands reached out, and his voice, though barely above a whisper, was deafening. "Mommy. I'm so hungry." Clara's heart pounded in her chest, her arms instinctively tightening around her twins. She could feel the cold, otherworldly pull of Samuel's presence, drawing the warmth from her body. He was closer now, his bony fingers inches from her skin. In desperation, Clara screamed for her husband, but when he entered the room, he saw nothing. Samuel was invisible to everyone except the mothers, who could feel the ghost's need, his endless hunger. Exhausted and drained, Clara collapsed onto the bed, her babies crying in her arms as she fought to stay conscious. No one knew how to stop Samuel. The legend warned that he would forever roam, seeking the milk he was denied in life, haunting the living in his unrelenting hunger. To this day, mothers in Litchfield live in fear of their newborns attracting the attention of the ghost child. When a baby is born, the first night is the most dangerous. They say that if you hear the faint cry of a hungry infant, if you feel the cold air creeping into your nursery, you must not look outside. You must ignore the whispers, no matter how desperate they sound. For if you do, Samuel will come for you. And once he finds you, he will never let go.